Hello, welcome to my cautionary tale. If at the moment you're contemplating buying a Citroen C3, then have a wee lookie at this wee video and see what you think. In the past 14 months, this car has actually cost me to repair more than it's actually valued at. When this car works, I love it. It's a C3 1.4 diesel HDI LX. But the problem is, it never works. The garage owner down the road from here, Derek, actually said to me, "Your car's in my garage more than I am," and that kind of says it all. It is the most unreliable car I have ever owned in my life. Let's start with 14 months ago when things started going tits up. Right, the first thing that went wrong was a leak in the radiator hose. Now that took 3 visits to the garage before it became apparent to them where the leak was and they were able to fix it. So 3, I work in Aberdeen. I live in the Shire, so I commute to work. 3 visits to the garage, 3 inconveniences to get the leak in the radiator hose fixed. Very soon after that, that started probably about April, very soon after that, the indicator went tits up and it stopped going off automatically, which is a bit dodgy because sometimes you don't remember to put it off manually. So that had to be fixed. That cost a chunk, but it had to be done because I was worried about forgetting one day to switch it off manually and causing an accident, so that had to be done. Now, what was the next thing? Oh yeah, the fuel gauge that tells you how much fuel you've got in the car. That was the next thing that died a death. So I never knew how much fuel I had in. That had to go in and be fixed. And it was. Then, where on earth did I go? I have a list of things. Let me see now. After the indicator was knackered, fuel pump, fuel sensor. I remember now. It was the crankshaft sensor. The car kept cutting out. And one day it just cut out on the dual carriageway. Massive inconvenience. And it was the crankshaft sensor. Ballpark figure to get fixed, 350 quid. But it had to be done. Car started working again. Now, we've just had the worst winter we've had in, donkey's years. And whenever the temperature was below minus, the gauge was, if I had to scrape the windscreen, the car wouldn't go into gear. That was basically it. Wouldn't go into gear any time it was cold enough to have the windscreen that needed scraped. So, guaranteed it would take me about half an hour to get the car started, and that included running it for about goodness knows how long, maybe 20 minutes on a good day, and then getting a wee shove from behind to get it started. Sorry about that wee juvenile titter, but anyway. Then let me see what happens after that. Okay, I'm going to go and open the bonnet and I'm going to show you inside. Oh, and by the way, the bonnet clasp has never worked. It's been in to be fixed 3 times and still never works. I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of under there hanging off. And always has done. Right, let me go to the bonnet now, and I'll open it. By the way, if the car looks all kind of dusty and minging, it's actually because it's ornamental. It just sits in the drive or on the street and doesn't actually really get used because it never works. It's the biggest ornament I own. Right, let's go to the next thing that went wrong. The fuel pump regulator. Now let's have a wee looky there. It sounds when I'm shuffling these papers as if I've got a script. Well, I haven't. This is 3 pages worth of work that's been done on this car in the past 14 months. Right, let's go to the pressure sensor on the fuel rail, also the regulator. That needed done. The fuel pump was stripped twice and refurbished, new valves, etc. Now, the sensor that would have been needed to fix it is a tiny little plastic thing. However, Citroen won't sell you it. They'll only sell you the entire unit for £1,300. Chunk of money. Then what happened after that? Oh yeah, the engine ECU. That went tits up as well. So in order for me to actually get this car to work, I have spent thousands on this car getting it fixed, by the way, not just hundreds. So let's look at this chunk here. In order for me to get this car to work, I have to take off this cover after opening the bonnet, take off the cover, disconnect 3 pairs of wires in the right order, then wait for about 10 minutes, then reconnect 3 pairs of wires in the right order, replace the wee cover and pull the bonnet back down. Massive inconvenience, especially if you're on the dual carriageway. Now, the thing with this is, it doesn't sound like a huge amount, but it does. As I said, I live in Aberdeen. Sorry, no, I work in Aberdeen. I live in Aberdeenshire. Massive amount of commuting. During the time when the car was at its worst, my 13-year-old daughter had hellish glandular fever. Now, I don't know if you know anything about glandular fever, but it's evil. And it lasts for months. And I was having to get her up out of her bed at 5:30 in the morning. And if anyone knows anything about glandular fever, they'll know that it's vicious and debilitating. Hugely debilitating and painful. Migraines, constant squeamishness, and she had to be dragged out of her bed at 5:30 in the morning, to be taken to a bus stop, to be driven into Aberdeen by the bus, for me to get her to the childminder so I could go to work. Now, this isn't an illness that lasts for a week or two that I could take time off work. Glandular fever lasts for months, 3 months actually, and my child was put through that because this Citroen C3 crap car never worked. It is the most unreliable beast I have ever driven. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait to buy a Mazda. Think about it before you buy one. I'll give it its due. When it works, it's wonderful. Problem is, it just never works. Ta-ta!